So go ahead and look at the in-class L assignment. There should be a document in there, flowchart to code. And first we want to make sure that we really understand the flowchart. And in this case, there's a one-to-one correspondence between commands in the flowchart and commands in script. So it won't be that hard to type in, but that may not always be the case. You know, I could just say, you know, get input from user, and then you have to add all the steps or whatever. In this case, I list all the steps that you need to do. So since I can't get all this on the page, when you're coding it, you're going to definitely want this flowchart in front of you, so you're going to want to open the PDF or the Word doc. Okay, so looking at it, what does it do? I want somebody to be my computer and tell me, read out loud what it's doing, and then I'm going to write stuff on the board as we do it. Okay, so what's the first step, somebody?
Print the temperature conversion program.
Okay, so it's going to print temperature conversion program. What's next?
It's processing choice to...
Yeah, it says set choice to B. Now if you scroll down, you'll see some hints. My hints are, one of them, set X to B should be in your program as X, set X to Y should be entered as your program as X equals Y. So when we say set choice to question mark in our code, and by the way, you don't need to be coding this yet. I mean, you can work ahead if you want. But so here we're going to say choice is equal to question mark. All right, so we have a variable named choice. We're setting it equal to question mark. What's next?
Well, choice is not equal to...
Okay, so is choice equal to Q at this point? Well, what is it? It's a question mark. This is just a temporary value. It could be anything as long as it wasn't Q. You know, it could even be an empty string. Maybe using a question mark was a bad idea. You know, maybe it should have been equal to X or something. Or I have no idea, that whole string. So choice is not equal to Q yet, which is good, because otherwise it wouldn't go into the while loop. So what's the next step after that? Choice equals menu. All right, you're going to have to tell me what happens on the menu program. I'll scroll over to it. Let's see here. Where's menu? Where's menu? There it is. It's in blue. Okay, this is a little bit much for me to write down, but print A, convert C to F. B, print, convert F to C. Print Q to quit, and then print which do you wish, A, B, or C. So if I was a computer, I would print that. Convert C to F, convert F to C, quit, which do you wish? Now what's next?
You get to input choice.
I get to input choice, and so if we were going to word that, how would we word that in script? It's another one of the hints. I would say choice is equal to input, yeah? By the way, this is not a code because I'm just putting it all, you know, in one stream, and we're not going to do that. Each time we go to a function like that, it's going to be, you know, in its own defined function. So choice is equal to input. What should I enter? Somebody pick something.
A.
And not Q. Okay, so choice is now equal to A. And then what do we do?
Return choice.
We return choice. So that's going back, and that gets stored into here because we said choice is equal to menu. So right now choice is equal to A. What happened? Well, we have to scroll back to our main program, eh? What's next now that we have a value for choice? Yeah, so we're done with choice is equal to menu. That value that was returned got copied into choice. So choice is now equal to X. Then what happens? What's the next thing? So we're going to do an if statement. If choice is equal to A. Is it? We just entered an A. Everybody agree?
Yes.
Okay, so cool. What are we going to do?
Convert stuff as parameters.
Yeah, we have to call that function. Now this is not a fruitful function, so it doesn't have an equal sign in it. It's a void function. That doesn't mean it's useless, it just means that it doesn't return any values. All right, there's C to F. What's the next thing that happens? Okay, so we print something. We say converting from F. And then we do what? Okay, so our temperature, TMPF, is equal to ask. And that's a colored box, and it got bars down the side, so that means it's another function. We have to find that function on our flow chart. There we go. All right, so what does ask do? It says, please enter a number. All right, give me a number. 53. No, give me a different. No, I'm kidding. Since we're converting, we're in C to F, right? Since we're converting from Celsius to Fahrenheit, I just happen to know, and you do too if you've taken chemistry or physics or whatever, that 0 degrees C is equal to 100 degrees F. That's the freezing point of water, and that's, you know, when it's freezing in Fahrenheit. And that 100 degrees C is equal to 212 because that's a boiling point of water. So let's just choose 0. Why did I ask you? I don't know. If I was going to be so picky. Okay, so we inputted a number and it was equal to 0. Then what's the next thing we do? We just did the input statement. What's after that? Now y'all are afraid to answer. Okay, so now we convert it to a float because it was a string. You know, it was a string. It had quotes around it, but now it's an actual number, 0.0. What do? Yeah, we return that. So now, you know, that comes back in, and temperature F is equal to 0.0. I'm running out of space in all this. I'm going to erase this. Okay, so we were at temp F is equal to ask. That was where we were. We've got a value for temp F now because it returned it. It's equal to 0.0. What's the next statement? I better scroll back up to C to F. Okay. What's next?
MF equals 32 plus 1.8 times temp C.
Okay, so that was actually temp C. My mistake. When we did ask, that was stored in temp C. It's my mistake. Okay, so temp F is equal to what? Please remind me. 32 plus 1.8 times temp C. Okay. And I bullied y'all into saying 0 with temperature C. What's 1.8 times 0? Alrighty. And what's 32 plus 0? That's hard. There we go. So temperature F is 32. What's the next thing we do? We're going to print that. Print A. The temperature in F is 32. And then we return. Where are we going to return? We have to go back into our main program. It's kind of, there we go. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom. That's just a connector. You can ignore that. That's not any actual code. If you see something in a little circle, it's just a place for arrows to go. Now this is a while loop. So it doesn't go straight down when it's done. It loops back up to the while. Is choice equal to Q? No, the last time we checked it was equal to A. Okay, so now we ask, choice is equal to menu. We go back over to the menu thing, and what does it do? It prints, do you wish to A, do that conversion, B, do that conversion, or Q, quit. Let's say I quit. We type in a Q, it returns that choice, and so now we're here and we go to the next step. So what's that comparison? Right now, choice is equal to Q. Is Q equal to A? Tell me. Thumbs up or thumbs down on if choice is equal to A. We typed in a Q for choice. Did I hear a no? Alrighty. What about the next one? Is choice equal to B? No. No, that's not true. How about this one? Is choice equal to Q?
Yes.
It is. So we're going to print, okay, quit. We're going to come back to here. Now it doesn't really quit, does it? It goes back up to the loop. Goes back up to the while statement. And then it says while choice is not equal to Q. Well, is this true or false anymore?
It's false.
It's now false because Q choice does equal Q. So we're not going to ask any more questions. We're not going to go back into the menu. We're going to go all the way down to the bottom. We print done and the program's done. Alrighty. Let's take a stab at coding this. And in order to code this kind of thing, if there's functions, you need to code the functions first. The functions have to go above the main code. All right, so I'll give y'all 45 minutes. I'll be back. No, I'm kidding. But y'all can do this. How do you define a menu? I mean, how do you define a function? What's the key word for defining a function?
Def.
Yeah. In this case, I made it easy because I typed that there, but I didn't put the colons there. So don't forget your colons. Don't save it in your Python directory. I think I'll just call it tmp underscore conv. I think it may give a different name in the actual, if I scroll back up here, I'll see the name of the assignment. Or the name of the program. Well, what do you know? I didn't. Okay. Then that name is as good as any other. Okay, so I'm going to define menu first. And that's a good one to define because it doesn't rely on any other functions. This one would be a bad one because we would have to define ask. We don't have to, but for it to compile, for it to run, you would have to define ask before you define this one. Menu is a good one because it doesn't depend on any other predefined process that we write. So I called my program TEMP underscore CONV, April 6th by Alvin, programmer. All right, we need to define our menu function. This one's pretty easy. I'm not going to read it all aloud. I'm just going to remind you that you need a colon and everything underneath that has to be indented. And then that thing that says input choice, we actually have to put it in the correct syntax where we say choice is equal to input, parentheses, in parentheses. And by the way, what I just did was you could call it a walkthrough. I didn't actually test every single choice because there was an else at the very end of that code that handled the menu. If you typed in an invalid choice, it printed out, sorry, invalid choice, and it went back up at the top. And I didn't walk through that, and I also didn't walk through converting F to C because it's not implemented yet. There's a function there, but all it prints is not implemented. Okay. I almost did that. I almost typed input space choice, but that's not the code, is it? It's choice is equal to input. And one of the other hints is if I leave off the parentheses on a print statement, that's not valid Python code, so you have to put the parentheses. Most of the time I put the parentheses. I did something wrong in my code here. What did I do wrong here? The lines of code are correct, but I did something very seriously wrong. Yeah, I didn't indent everything.
Yeah, you did.
Oh, great. All right. Well, I wonder if 2 levels of indentation would stop it. If you make a mistake like that, just highlight all the code and go to Format Dedent. I love that word, but it's the opposite of indent. Dedent pushes it all back. Now, although this isn't part of the program, I want to test that function before I go any further. So down in my main code, I'm just going to call menu. I'm not going to get its value or anything. I just want to make sure it works. I just want to make sure that it doesn't have a syntax error. If it has a syntax error, that's something I'm going to have to fix later. I may as well fix it now. So that's what I did, is down here in my main program, I invoked the menu function, but I'm treating it like a void function. I'm not doing any further tests, not doing unit tests on it or anything. Okay. Yay. I didn't have any syntax errors. Make sure you don't before we continue. I'm going to delete that menu call now because it might confuse me later.
Do we put wishy-wish A, B, or Q, or A, B, or C?
Yeah, it probably was supposed to be QA. My mistake. A, B, or Q. Very good. I love it when my students are smarter than me. So let's pick another function to write. I know some of y'all may not be done, but a lot of y'all are. What's the next function to do?
C to F.
C to F is good, but it depends on another function. It depends on this function, so that which should really be the one to implement first, or second, ask. And the reason for that is if we type this code in, if we had not already done the ask function, it wouldn't run. So I need to find the ask function, which is way down here. Kind of like building a house. If you don't put the foundation down first, then you're not going to be able to, put the walls. You have to put the walls in before you put the windows. So we just have to figure out what goes first. In this case, it's ask. Oh, I even put the colon in that ask, in that define statement. But I didn't put the parentheses in the print.
You should have put the parentheses around input.
You're right. I forgot the parentheses around the input. That's completely wrong. I was just blindly typing in the flowchart. Instead, it's in is equal to input, parentheses in parentheses. Now I curse myself for not actually putting the correct syntax in the flowchart. Here I thought I was being all clever and challenging, and instead I just messed it up. Okay. Now in main, I want to test ask. So after you get done typing ask, just put an invocation to ask. Ask parentheses in parentheses, and run it and make sure we don't have any syntax errors. Please type in a number. 12. Okay, good. No syntax errors. I'm going to walk around and make sure that y'all aren't getting behind. If you want to go ahead and start working on C to F, go ahead and start typing that. Just getting syntax errors that you need help with. No, we're not going to delete it, but to invoke it, yeah, because otherwise it won't even run. But then when we're ready to test ask, change that to ask so that you can test the ask function. My wish list for Christmas will be to have 2 projectors and 2 monitors on every desk. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. Okay.
All right, I'm going to start working on C to F. I may not speak it aloud because y'all started working on it already and I might distract you. I'm going to delete that call to ask at the bottom now that I've tested it. Alright, I've got a serious mistake in my code here. That's why I did it wrong up there, is because it's wrong here as well. This line here, in fact there's several lines wrong. Good job, Jeff. Okay. Let me show you where it's wrong. Since it's in a PDF, I can't easily modify it. So if you type in the code as is here, it's not going to work. Anybody see what's wrong with it? There are 2 lines that are wrong. Or at least 1 line. Yeah. 2 lines. It's okay if you don't see them, but
Converting from F should be converting from C.
yeah, this should say converting from C. So that print statement's wrong. And then this next statement is wrong too, because if we're converting from C, we should not be asking for the temperature in Fahrenheit. So this should say TEMPC is equal to ask. I'm going to leave that on the screen even though it's a little harder to see, just because it shows you where the mistakes are. If I hadn't made the mistake in the print statement as well, I'd start fronting and say that I made the other mistake just to test to see if you could find it. As it is, I've brought shame to my ancestors. Okay. Now after that, there's only one more function. That's the define F to C. And all it does is print function not implemented yet. And I may have mentioned this before, but if it's a void function rather than a fruitful function, you don't have to have the return statement at the bottom. However, you do put the return statement in the flowchart, so you may as well add it to your code as well, and that's why I do that. Okay, after I've added my C to F function, I'm going to go down to main and test it out. So before I go any further, before I start writing out the main code, I'm going to test C to F. Because if there's any syntax errors, I want to catch them early. So good data points to test if you want to test the algorithm. Type in 100, make sure it equals 212, and type in 0 and make sure it gives you 32. So I'm going to run it twice. Oh, don't type in 32. Type in 0 and make sure it says 32. Because 0 is Celsius. It's 32 Fahrenheit. Any of y'all old enough to remember when it was called centigrade rather than Celsius? Maybe that's why metric didn't catch on in the United States. We couldn't figure out what to call our degrees. All right, my C to F function worked. I'm going to start working on the main code. Wave your hand and gesticulate frantically if you need help getting C to F to work. It's one of the places where the flowchart has matched me up. But not yet. You haven't implemented main, have you?
Did.
Really?
Yeah, I erased them after I used it.
No, I mean main has got to have all of these
Oh,
lines.
no.
Yeah, yeah. So we got some stuff left to do. After we've defined all of our functions, we're going to encode main. And main is the one that starts with the start box, the start oval rather than a define oval. Now start isn't a Python word, so I'm going to skip that. And I wasn't picking on you. I actually thought you had it done.
No, yeah. I misunderstood you.
Remember that even if I don't put the colon on the while, you have to put it in your code, just like in the if statement. If I don't put parentheses, if I don't put a colon after my if statement, that's not invalid code. I mean, that's not valid code. Bless you.
So I have a question on the while statement. How come you don't have to have the
Because that would mean
Oh, no, never mind.
run as long as choice equal to Q.
Okay, yeah, never mind.
Instead, I want it to run until it,
Yeah.
while it not equals Q. Very good question. Because I kept telling L over and over not to use a single equal in a while or net.
Yeah.
It was a challenge fitting all this on one page. Not that I'm vainglorious, but I expect a round of applause. No, I am kidding. That little circle down at the bottom, the connector does serve a good point. A good. It is useful because that kind of tells you where to stop indenting.
Where did I put mine?
And if you feel absolutely compelled to have those stop and start words, you could just add them as comments. That's
Put a C
absolutely
in
not
versus
necessary.
Q again.
Did I do something wrong? Pardon?
You put a C where your Q should be.
Oh, for Pete's sake. Thanks. See, I need to bring cookies and hand out cookies for people who catch errors.
Wait. So we really about to do this?
Pardon me?
Are we really about to do this? That would make class so much more exciting.
Wish I could. Heck, maybe I will. All right, now that I've typed in main, hopefully correctly, there are 4 options I need to test. I need to test A, B, Q, and then I need to type in an invalid choice like X or C or something. So I'm just going to run it and test it 4 times, or enter 4 things. All right, that seems to work. So I'm going to wander around and make sure y'all get it going as well. So this is the really correct formula. You could either do divided by 1.8 or you need to put 5 9 times. Yeah, I'm making the Dropbox for the homework now. All right, should be there now if you refresh it if you've already done it. Homework assignment 7 has got a Dropbox.